I was offered ketamine at a christening. Is it me that's wrong or Britain? I think there's a third option here. I think your mates are mental. You're addicted to moral ambiguity. No, you're not. You got a 2-2 in English from Keele University, and you're just using a few posh words to justify the fact that you're a knob. And he says this himself, and he wouldn't mind me saying this. He's very woke. He thinks differently to me. And that means that I'm able to think about the other side of the argument and go, do they have a point? No! Hello and welcome to Francis Foster Sorts Your Life Out, the show where I indeed sort your life out. Send me through your problems. I'm going to be here. Remember, I'm not a professional, but that means I'm an expert. Nobody even knows what experts even are. Everybody's talking about what an expert is. I don't know what an expert is. The only thing I know is that everybody should listen to my opinion because I'm fucking right, mate. I'm right, you're wrong, which is essentially what everybody does when they sit down and have a chat with someone else, regardless of their level of expertise or knowledge in a particular subject. It's, I'm right, you're wrong. Listen to me, right? Anyway, so that's what we're going to be doing here. The world is filled with problems, and you come here every week for me to sort out your problems. And so you should, because I am an expert. I identify as one. And if you identify as something, then you are it. Let's just be fair. That is how it works. Well, I mean it. By that, I mean social media, and most pertinently of all, Twitter. I'm not going to call it X. I absolutely refuse to call it X. Elon is a human being. He's done good and he's done bad. We can all accept that. But X, I'm sorry, the only reason you would call something X is if you are a virgin. Who calls something X? Oh, this is my platform, X. Oh, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, Twitter meant something. But no, X is a terrible name. And no, so I'm sticking with Twitter. It is Twitter. It always will be Twitter. It's just like marathon bars. You may know them as Snickers. They're marathon to me. Same with Starburst. That American shit. It's Opal Fruits. It always will be. It always has been. You know, I'm too old to be dealing with these. We should call it this or we should call it that. No. The original name. Always and forever. Opal Fruits. Marathon. I'm getting old, I can't remember the other ones. But whatever they are, they should have remained as is. Cocoa Pops, they turned them into Cocoa Krispies. Now, Americans, you don't know what I'm going on about. And that's not your fault, you've got no culture. So, Twitter for me, Cocoa Pops, Marathon, Opal Fruits. Standard. We're not changing it for the world. I am sticking with this. But I'm glad I'm started like that. I'm glad I put a foot down. You see, this is what conservatism is to me. Conservatism to me, it's about the state of the nation. It's about not wanting to change things. It's not about giving into hyper-liberal progressivism, however you want to describe it. It's about keeping things the fucking same. That's what I want. They need things to be the same. Men, women, Opal Fruits, Twitter. I don't want anything to change. I'm going to be 43 soon, and by the time this comes out, I will be 43. So, I don't want anything to change. Too much has changed in my lifetime. I don't like it. Why has everything got to change? Why does everybody want to change things? We've reached our peak. It was 1996. You're on 96. Again, Americans don't know what I'm talking about. Again, it's not your fault. You don't have culture. And look, I love you, but I love you in the way I kind of like, my retarded cousin. I'll go there and I'll just give me a little ruffle of the head, go, you're doing your best, and that's fine. 1996 was the peak. 90s were the peak, and we're now insisting on changing everything. Everything was better in the 90s. The football was better in the 90s. Culture was better. And now we want to change everything. This is a problem. 1996 should have stopped, and it would have been brilliant. And there'll be people going, oh, Francis, you're a white man. Yeah. Was hip-hop better in 1996? Of course it was. Hip-hop was much better in 1996. R&B was better. Soul was better. The pinnacle of civilization. For white, black, brown, everybody. And then things came along and ruined it, like garage and whatever else. So, I think that's where I am now. Where I am now is we are now on the gradual downslope and the inevitable collapse of civilization. And I am here, a one-man, not wrecking ball, that's the wrong analogy. I'm a wall, I'm a barrier. I am the man preventing the waters from rushing in, destroying it. I am the boy with the finger in his dike. No, that's wrong. The finger in the dike. Don't laugh, you dirty, smutty little people. I know what you're thinking. He said the word dyke. We don't use that word, for instance. Yeah, it's homophobic. I'm talking about the story of the boy who saved the village or the town or whatever it was in Holland because the dike was leaking. A dike is a sand barrier, for those who don't know, who keep the waters from rushing in and flooding the Dutch lowlands. And he put his finger in the dike. Again, I can hear you laughing. Stop laughing, you dirty little pervs. Like that, or maybe like that. Stop it. Like that, 2 fingers, like a gentleman. And he stopped it leaking. And he was just there for hours, because that's what you do if you're a man. You stay there for hours in order to save someone. Again, this analogy isn't really working, but you get where I'm going with this. That's who I am. I am the boy with the fingers in the dike. And I am the one standing up for Western civilization, standing up against the inevitable torrent of misery that is about to be unleashed. And with no further ado, let's get the first problem up, please, Jackie. We've done this one, Jackie. Yeah, we did that with Mark Dolan. You see what I'm dealing with? See what I'm dealing with? We did this with Mark Dolan. Unbelievable, Jackie. Right, first question, Jack. Dear Francis, I lie in anonymous AA meetings just to feel something. I don't even drink. Is that just darkness or just boredom with my own story? That's quite interesting. So I don't drink. I haven't had a drink since August 2011. And that's 14 years. So I gave up when I was 29. And I did the whole going to AA and all the rest of that. But you know the problem with going to AA is that it involves men. And whenever something involves men, it could be, you know, a radiotherapy meeting group. I don't even know what that is. That's just coming to my brain. It's like, it could be an AA meeting. It could be a meeting of legal assistance. It could be a meeting of charity benefactors, or whatever it is, everything that involves men turns into a glorifying dick measuring contest. So I was in LA and I went to, and I was wanting to get sober because I went to the iCarly party. It was a rap party. All the stars were there. Jamie Lynn Spears, Britney Spears' sister, was there. Turns out she was 16 or 17 at the time and pregnant. I mean, anyway. And so I was there, and there was free booze, free food. I ate a load of food, and then I got absolutely hammered to the point I got carried out. Not good, not a good look, pretty terrible. So I started to go to AA meetings. And because I knew I had a problem with drink, I knew that I drank too much. I knew that I drank for the wrong reasons. And what it was a glorified dick measuring contest. I remember just sitting there, right, going, okay, and we started to share our stories. And I'd be like, I drink too much. You know, I go out on a weekend or on a Tuesday, or probably a Tuesday actually, and I have like 6 or 7 pints, and then struggle to get up for work the next day. And the moment I start drinking, this cycle starts. And then the bloke next to me goes, well, I do that, but also I wake up and I have a bottle of whiskey in the morning. And I'm like, all right, mate, it's not a fucking dick measuring contest. And then the bloke next to him goes, well, I have a bottle of whiskey, and then I have another bottle. And you're like, what's going on here? And then the bloke next to him goes, oh, yeah, I have 2 bottles of whiskey, and then I suck on a crack pipe. And then the bloke next to him goes, oh, yeah, I do that, and I have a suck on a crack pipe and 2 bottles of whiskey, and then I get sucked off by a tramp. And the bloke at the end is like, yeah, I am the tramp. And you're going, come on, mate. I thought this was us trying to be vulnerable. I thought this was us trying to expose our flaws, who we are, trying to get better as individuals. But it just turned into a massive dick measuring contest. People then would then get up and then just tell their stories, and you're just going, oh mate, I'm out of my depth here. I felt like a guy who was like brilliant, downright, somebody who was super talented in a Sunday league football team, and was pinging the ball about Sunday morning, maybe wearing a pair of cheeky white boots, and thinking to myself, you know what, I could do this. And then I have a trial for the pro team, and just getting absolutely murdered. And then, people going up and telling their stories, and they were horrendous. Actually, my favourite story is I had a mate who went through rehab. he was doing it at the same time as this very well-known rock star, and everybody would be telling their stories, and their stories of addiction, so they're all harrowing and miserable and brutal. And and then the rock star would be like, "Yeah, I knew when I was my rock bottom because I was cheating on my wife, and I was in Hawaii, and I'd been on a 7-day cocaine binge, and in Hawaii, in a 5-star resort with 2 models. I didn't know who the models were, but we were just having sex. I mean, it was meaningless. And all his rock bottoms would be him shagging models in places like yachts and penthouses and having these incredible hedonistic experiences, which he then said were rock bottoms. And they actually had to ask him to leave. They were like, "Sorry, mate. You're depressing the rest of the patients because what you're saying to everybody else sounds like a dream." Now, I know it may not be to you, but to everybody else, that sounds fucking brilliant. That sounds incredible. So it just goes to show, it's the whole rehab and the AA thing does a lot of good. Don't get me wrong, but also there's human beings involved, so it's and especially men, which means it's gonna turn into a glorified dick measuring contest. So. You do it just to feel something. Is that darkness or just boredom with my own story? I think what it is, my friend, is the acknowledgement that there is something inside of you that you are not addressing. You allude to it here, is that darkness. Now, we all have a darkness. It's part of who we are. We have a light and a dark. We have what Carl Jung called the shadow. And a lot of people feel that you achieve balance in your life by integrating the shadow into your life, accepting the shadow. The shadow, people would describe it as the child who you were when you were growing up, the child who you don't want to acknowledge, the child who you were running away from, the child who maybe you were slightly ashamed of. That is your shadow. Maybe the child who was a little bit fat or a little bit anxious, who struggled to make friends, who was insecure, or maybe couldn't talk to girls, or felt that they were stupid, or whatever it was. We all had our own insecurities. That, according to Jung, is your shadow. And a lot of people and a lot of psychologists and psychotherapists believe that you will become far more stable and mature as an individual by integrating the shadow, by accepting the shadow, not running away from it, but accepting that it is part of who you are, making peace with it, and therefore going into the world as a far more stable individual as a result of that. And that's something I believe in. I've done that many, many times. I've taken, shall we put it, some cheekies in order to get spiritual enlightenment. And it has helped. And it's helped to confront the darkness within myself. So what I would say, and by the way, I'm not advocating for drug use. I think that is something incredibly personal to the individual. What my advice to you would be, you wouldn't be going to these meetings if you didn't realize that there was something awry within your soul. And that being the case, you might want to think to yourself, what is it that I'm not addressing? What is it that I'm not dealing with? Because the truth is, we're all running away from something. And there are things that are too terrible for most of us to face up to, even though we should. That's actually what it means to be an adult, is to face up to our own fears and problems, whatever they are. Anxieties, and face them down and wrestle with them, and by doing that to conquer them. And what it seems to me is that you have these fears, like we all do. You have this darkness, and you're not doing the work to face up to them or to challenge them, to look the demon in the eye, which we all need to do. So my advice would be, that's the work that needs to be done. Maybe find a good therapist, start talking to people. Very frequently, our subconscious is far more powerful than we will ever actually acknowledge or admit to. And our subconscious knows what it is that we are craving or wanting and drives us to places, whilst we may not be aware of it ourselves. So the fact that you don't even drink and you attend AA means that you want to work on yourself. Now, it may not be an addiction to drink. It may be an addiction to something else. I don't know. Maybe gambling, pornography, whatever it may be. Maybe sex or some type of relationship. Or maybe it's nothing to do with addiction whatsoever. But it is something within inside yourself that you are not wanting to address. So my advice would be, look inside yourself, find out what that thing is, and if you can't, book in with a therapist, a good one. I would say cognitive behavioral therapists or DBT. I can't remember what the D stands for, dialectic behavioral therapy, I think it is, which are proven to work. And go and start talking and really start to delve into what is actually happening, because that's the path that you need to go down. And I think by attending these AA meetings, that's what your subconscious is showing you. Good luck. Okay, dear Francis, my local book club now insists we use safe words during discussions in case a plot twist is too emotionally triggering. Last week, someone used this during the secret garden. Am I the one losing my mind? No, you're not. It's very interesting that we talk about triggering and being emotionally triggered, because the reality is we all get emotionally triggered. We all have trauma, and that means that certain things happen to us, or when people say things to us, and we have an emotional response to it, which we now use the word trigger to describe that type of emotional response. And that's fine. That's perfectly normal and indeed healthy that these things are happening. But it's also your job to be able to look at those emotions and realize when they're disproportionate or not helpful, and then talk about them and then face them down. For instance, if you suffer from severe anxiety when it comes to any type of confrontation. I have anxiety when it comes to confrontation. I'm not particularly good with confrontation. I don't really like it because of my childhood and the way I was brought up. And it instills in me a profound sense of fear, and I get a very intense physiological reaction from that. And I don't. It's not even any type, like, if it's physical confrontation, ironically enough, I don't really have a problem with physical confrontation. I mean, of course, I have a problem with it. I don't enjoy it, but that's not the issue for me. Is emotional confrontation and a discussion. I find that incredibly difficult to deal with, incredibly difficult, and it causes me a huge amount of distress and anxiety and just suffering in some cases. So I do have a lot of empathy actually for people who get triggered, as it were, by things that other people find innocuous, because I think, if I'm being honest, I am one of those people. However, you cannot go through your life imposing, because you have a disproportionate or heightened reaction of a particular thing or of a particular issue or word or whatever it is. You cannot then start demanding everybody else adhere to a certain behavior just so you feel, in inverted commas, safe. Because that's not actually what you're doing. It's not that you feel unsafe, it's that you feel distress or discomfort. And actually, feeling distress or discomfort is a normal part of life. You can't demand that everybody adheres to a certain behavioral code, which is, how can I put this? It's not just that it's unfair, it's unreasonable. You can't demand that. You can't demand that. Now, you can say to people, look, I don't want to be sworn at, I don't want to be shouted at, I don't want to be physically assaulted. Those are all perfectly fine. But you can't demand that the people don't, for instance, that people don't disagree with you. Disagreement is part of life. Challenge is part of life. Pushback is part of life. You have to accept that that is what it is. That's what life is. You have to do that. Otherwise, not only are you having a negative impact on the world around you, you also have being negatively impacting yourself. Because what you're effectively doing is weakening yourself. Because if you think about like an immune system grows stronger by being exposed to various different types of viruses and bacteria and pathogens and all the rest of it. If you don't expose your immune system to all these different types of organisms, your immune system is not going to grow strong. It's like muscles. You need to go to the gym to strengthen, to work. So by adopting this attitude, the only person you're really hurting is yourself. I would try and challenge this behavior if I were you. And I would say, look, I don't think this is helpful. Because a lot of the books that we are talking about and a lot of the novels and a lot of the literature is from a time before 2025. And as a result of that, what that means is they had different customs, they had different cultures, they had different mores. They had a different standard for what was and what wasn't acceptable. And that's really part of the reason why we read books, is to get an insight into another world, into different people's, into different characters, different people's thoughts and viewpoints. That's what brilliant writers and novelists do. They capture the author or the character's viewpoint. So by them saying that they don't want to use these words, what you're effectively doing is neutering the author's viewpoint, but also fundamentally changing it. Because the great thing about art is that you're able to address things and talk about things that are taboo, that we feel uncomfortable talking about. And by talking about it and gripping and wrestling with it, hopefully we take a little bit of sting out of the subject and we're able to find some kind of solution. So, if I were you, and it's just me, I would actually try and initiate that discussion in your book club and see where that gets you, and see if you can understand, if you can get to some kind of understanding or conclusion. But if you can't, then you're going to be faced with a choice, which is a choice many of us have faced over the years with this stuff. Do you find a new book club, an anti-woke book club, which I'm hesitant to advise because I'll be honest with you, I don't like being surrounded by people who think just like me. I find it boring. I like being around people who think differently. I listen to woke podcasts. One of my favorite podcasts is called the Comedian's Comedian Podcast, and it's hosted by a comedian called Stu Goldsmith, a very nice man, very good comedian, and he wouldn't mind, and he says this himself, and he wouldn't mind me saying this. He's very woke, and I actually like listening to Stu because he thinks differently to me, and that means that I'm able to think about the other side of the argument and go, do they have a point? No. Do they have a point with what they're saying? If I don't agree, can I at least understand? Are there things that are saying that are particularly valid or relevant? The last thing that you want is to be sitting and surround yourself with a group of people who agree with you on everything, because you're not challenging yourself. And the moment you stop challenging yourself, it's the moment you stop growing and you stop progressing and you stop flourishing. And that's dangerous. It's dangerous for society as a whole, but it's more importantly, it's dangerous for you. I would ask you to go and challenge. And then when they say we use safe words, go, why? And then put forward your own opinion as to why. And if it doesn't work, and if they then at least you know where you stand. You've got to stand up for what you think and what you believe. You don't want to regret not saying something. And what it sounds to me by reading this is that you're compelled to say something. And if you're compelled to say something, I think it's very important that you say it, or that you do it, and then the chips fall where they may, and then you can actually come out and go, this was a mistake, that was a mistake, but you grow. If you do not challenge yourself, if you don't make that step, that growth will never happen. So as always, this isn't about them, it's about you. It is the choice between speaking your mind and being honest, or biting your tongue and being safe. And you don't strike me as the kind of person who wants to bite their tongue and be safe. My advice to you in this case is follow what your heart says and say what you think. And then at least you'll know where you stand. Good luck. Dear Francis, I was offered ketamine at a christening. The baby's name is Rhythm. I left early, but feel uncool for doing so. Is it me that's wrong, or Britain? I think there's a third option here. I think your mate's mental. I was offered ketamine at a christening. If you are one of those people who's incredibly chaotic and has a baby called Rhythm, the baby, when they hit 18, is going to change their name to Jeffrey and become a chartered accountant. If you're a chartered accountant, chances are you're going to have a baby who wants to grow up and become a rock star because they want to push back. The most obvious rebellion for this baby is to change their name from Rhythm to Rodney. I left early but feel uncalled for doing so. Why? Why do you feel uncalled for doing so? Is it because you look down on the person for offering you ketamine? As a man with a checkered history, should we just say, I would look down at someone who offered me ketamine at a christening. I think that is absolutely wild. Who looks at a baby being christened and thinks to themselves, do you know what I need now, mate? Let's get into the K-hole. Let's get it done, Dave. That's insane. That's completely nuts. And the fact that you would even think about doing that shows you are a grade A reprobate. I mean, to be fair, there's the other side of this, which is it'd make a hell of a story. I mean, if you were going to tell a story and it started off with, well, I was at a christening and someone gave me a wrap of ketamine and I thought, fuck it. You are going to listen to that story whatever happens. Like, what would have actually happened if you'd stayed and had ketamine? I've never done ketamine, so I wouldn't be able to talk. You would have been in a K-hole talking to a priest. Is that what would have happened? I felt uncalled for doing so. Do you know, here's the thing, and this is desperately unpleasant to admit, but we all become uncool at some point. It's inevitable. At some point in life, we become uncool. You ain't going to be 23 years old forever. There comes a point where you have to leave the party early because you got things to do because you're an adult. You can't do ketamine on a Tuesday afternoon because you've got a sales meeting with the VP of the company and you can't go in there half cut. It just ain't going to work. So you need to think to yourself, when would be the best time? When's the best time to leave? Because as a man who's now sober, I'm going to tell you, nothing good happens after 1 o'clock in the morning at a party. Do you know what I mean? That's when everything starts to get a bit messy. That's when everything starts to go a bit downhill and a bit wild. Is it me that's wrong or is it Britain? No. I think it's the third option. I think it's your mates or your family. And you know what? If you call your kid Rhythm and they're white and they can't dance, I mean, you've just left that kid's life open for a life of misery. You know, it's like calling your kid Romeo and he can't pull a bird. It's like if you call your kid Ronaldo and he can't play football. You just don't want to put that level of pressure on the kid. Call it Chris and then see where it goes. And he can become a chartered accountant, or he can play up front for Arsenal, or he can play guitar in a rock band. But don't call him Rhythm. It's too much pressure. So you're not wrong. It's not Britain. It's your mates and the people you hang around with. Dear Francis, I matched with someone on Hinge who said he was addicted to moral ambiguity. On the second date, he shoplifted. Is this what he meant? I have a particular issue with this. I have a massive issue with people who are fucking cunts, who, because they've had some level of education, or they're fairly intelligent, or not even intelligent, or just articulate, they use words, fancy words, to describe quite abhorrent behaviour. Look, if you shoplift, if you nick stuff, I'm going to be honest with you, and you're not doing it because you're poor or you're hungry, I think you're scum. And look, that doesn't mean you're scum permanently, but it's a scummy thing to do. It is a scummy thing to do. Our high street is dying, shops are struggling, and you're going to go and start nicking stuff. You're the worst. You are the literal worst, and I hope you get hit by a bicycle. Not a van, or a car, or a truck, because that'll kill you, but a bike will just, knock you over and shake you up a bit. As my dad would say, knock some bloody sense into you, lad. I hate people who do that. I hate people who go, I'm just a bit of a libertine, me, or no, mate, you just do cocaine on the weekend and you cheat on your missus. I'm a bit of a rascal, I'm a swordsman. All of these words that people use to describe their own frequent, terrible behaviour, which impact negatively on themselves, the people around them, and the community as a whole. Addicted to moral ambiguity. No, mate, you're addicted to being a twat. And let's not get into the whole left-wing bollocks argument. Oh, man, they're just like corporations, so we can just do that and there's no effects. Yeah, there will be an effect. Because whatever you think about corporations, they are run in a capitalistic way, which means it's all about money. So if they're not making money from the high street, or in fact they're losing money, and your behaviour, such as nicking, is exacerbating or worsening the situation, then they are going to pull back. They're not going to have a shop on the high street anymore. And that means that people are going to lose their jobs. Empty shops cause problems on high streets. It reduces traffic, which affects on the high street, which affects other businesses. It is the literal worst. You're addicted to moral ambiguity. No, you're not. You got a 2-2 in English from Keele University, and you're just using a few posh words to justify the fact that you're a knob. That's all you are. You're a complete knob. Don't, for the love of God, if you're a woman or you're a gay man or you're pan or whatever, for the love of God, do not procreate with this man. Don't pass his genes on to... I mean, it's not a problem if you're gay. I mean, it is a problem because then you're going to have a surrogate and then he's going to persuade you that, you know, that he should be the ones whose genes are passed on because that's the type of bloke that he is. Don't do it. You don't need these men. These men are the literal worst. This is a bigger red flag than you'll see in the Soviet army. Life is so precious, and particularly as a woman, you have there is a limited or finite amount of time. There is a finite amount of time if you want to have kids to find a father for your kids, a good man who will be able to have a relationship and raise children with. Do not procreate. Do not waste a single second with this man. Be grateful that he has shown you the moral vacuum that lies inside his soul, and just accept and be thankful that this man has shown you who he truly is, and go, thank you to the heavens, to the universe, to fate, to luck, to whatever you want to call it, that he's shown you who he is. Block him, never engage with him again, because I'm telling you right now, on a second date he's done this. What else is he going to do? What's he going to do? On his 5th date, what's he going to do? Is he going to rape a dog? Is he going to go around and then you take him to the zoo and he's going to be there like fisting a llama, going, oh, look, love, I'm addicted to moral ambiguity? Is that what we're going to be dealing with? Well, where else is this going to lead? Is he going to start stealing cars? Is he going to start nicking bikes? Is he going to start punching children in the face because he's addicted to moral ambiguity? Because if he's addicted to moral ambiguity in life, he's going to be addicted to moral ambiguity when it comes to you. Trust me. This is a man who is just like, I'm addicted to moral ambiguity. Let's see if I can have a threesome with your sister. That's the caliber of individual that we're talking about here. Get him out of your life. Do it now. This is the worst. Moral ambiguity. Cut him out. Get rid of him. Just get rid of him. Otherwise, he's going to be morally ambiguous with everything. Good luck. Dear Francis, there's a man at my gym who plays GBNews on his phone loudly on the treadmill. People complain, but the staff won't intervene. We're all pretending it's fine, like some kind of cultural hostage situation. Well, it depends what show it is, I guess. If it's headliners with Leo and a few other people, then I think that should be cancelled and he should be fired and he should be shot. We love Leo. We've had many people from headliners on the show. Leo, Lewis Schaefer. Okay. Stop. People complain, but the staff won't intervene. We're all pretending it's fine, like some kind of cultural hostage situation. You're going to have to confront the guy. Who plays GB? You know, I kind of half like this guy because he's such a magnificent troll. Especially if you're doing it in a super liberal, like, progressive part of London. Like, oh my God, guys, we're going to go to the gym. We're going to go and do some aqua yoga. And we're just going to go and do some hyper-vegan socializing. And we're just going to go and we're going to use the little pink weights because that's what the girls use. And we're just going to do that. And we're just going to be doing our little exercises like, And that's just the boys. And they're all there in their little lycra hot pants going, And then you've got Nigel Farage playing at the other end of the gym. I know it's not. It's not sensitive. And I know it's not good. But fuck me, is that funny? Farage is talking about stopping the boats. And everybody else is like, oh my God, guys. And stretch and plant and pain and power and just feel it through the spine. Yeah. Nigel is just there. And here we are, once again, in the immortal words of one of the greatest comedians to ever hold the mic. I don't agree, but I understand. There is the troll in me that just sees this as utterly magnificent. If the staff won't intervene, you've just got to do it yourself. It upsets you that much. Or you just put some headphones in and you just deal with it. Look, those are your two choices. People are cowards. But if you just go to him and you're very approachable and you go, look, mate, I'm really sorry. But what you're doing You know, it just puts me off my workout. Can you please not do it? I'm sure he'd be perfectly amenable to it. Maybe he's just doing it to piss you off, in which case that is funny. Someone being there going, okay, ladies, we're going to go into our downward dog now, and we're just going to take a deep breath. And then there's somebody in the corner ranting about the vaccine. And that's great. No, it's not great. It's obviously being a prick, but he's being a funny prick. And if it's somewhere like Stoke Newington, I kind of think that's fair enough. But you're just going to have to confront him if nobody else does. I do like it, though. Whoever that guy is, he's an angry middle-aged man named Colin. He's had enough, mate. I've had enough. Can't take it anymore. It's too much. Fucking going to do it. You know what I'm going to do, Terry? You know what I'm going to do, mate? I'm going to go out and I am going to play GBNews at the gym. It's gone too far now. You're going to have to confront him. I know you don't like it. It'll be fine, though. Just ask him to put it on his headphones. What's the worst he can do? Stab you? I was going to say maybe, but no, it's GBNews. So he'll probably just write an irate tweet about being cancelled by the woke mob. Guys, thank you for listening and watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Tell a friend. Give it a rating. My new book is out, or my first book is out. It's called Classroom Confidential. Link is in the description. It's available for pre-order now, so make sure you order a copy. I've sold 15, which is more than disappointing. So make sure we can get it up to triple figures like a legend, because my publishers aren't happy. All right, guys, have an incredible week, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.